I'm standing on a line, drinking fake wine with Naomi Klein, and you're looking fine, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you at last.
You too.
So I'm feeling proud to be Canadian?
It's not proud. Canada is the only country that signed Kyoto, that is an Annex 1 country, which means that we took on targets for cutting our emissions, and then we proceeded to turn around and increase our emissions by 26%.
Wow.
So we are the worst. George Monbiot, I think, made the point very well in a recent column, where it's not just that we are increasing emissions so catastrophically that's bad enough. It's that we are making a mockery of international law by signing the agreement and then showing the world that it's not worth the paper it's printed on.
And then you've got your tar sands as well.
Well, that's the source of the emissions. The reason why Canada's emissions are up 26% is not just because we're just, all driving Hummers. In fact, Canadians are more environmentally conscious than our neighbors to the south. It is a real concern. People have changed their behavior, but it's all nullified by the fact that we have discovered oil. This is oil in solid form. It's in this goopy gunk, which they call bitumen, but the oil is embedded in the sand and the dirt, and you basically have to boil the earth in order to get the oil out of it, and that takes 3 times as much energy, fossil fuel energy, as it does to extract a normal barrel of crude.
So let's talk about your favourite subject, corporates. Okay. We're standing here at Copenhagen.
Yes.
What is Copenhagen and what do you think of it?
I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's a branding campaign that's all over Copenhagen. They've sort of changed the name of the city to co-brand with the summit. And I think that the Danish government thought that this summit really was going to save the world and that it was going to be really awesome for their city to be associated with this giant success. The problem is it's not going in that direction. So we have all these ads for Coca-Cola sponsored Copenhagen. I think that was the first clue that maybe we weren't going to save the world here, but I think we're seeing a lot of police repression, and anytime anyone deviates from their branding campaign, like masses of riot cops come and get rid of them.
And then put them in small cages, apparently.
Yeah, it's been really ugly. And, I think it's unfortunate because I don't know about you, but I was feeling pretty good about Copenhagen when I got here. Love the bikes, love the windmills, But now it's like, I don't know, I'm not feeling so hot about Copenhagen.
Yeah. It's so obvious that the economy is a subsection of the environment.
My other favorite thing that's going on here is the Americans saying, well, we're worried about all these corrupt regimes and what they'll do with the money. It's like the most corrupt regime here is the U.S. regime. Everybody accepts the idea that they are so bought and paid for by the fossil fuel lobby that there's no way that they can just be a normal global citizen and come here with emission targets.
And one of the big things that everybody's hoping is going to come out of the New Deal is some sort of money from rich to poor.
Yeah.
Do you know what the numbers are and what do you think of those numbers?
Well, first of all, I think there's a huge problem in the way this has been presented and reported. Jonathan Pershing, the U.S. negotiator, was asked about the amount of money the U.S. had pledged, which was only $1.4 billion, and he said there's only so much U.S. largesse that is possible. And that is the posture of the U.S. negotiators, that they're doing a favor to the developing world by kicking a few $1 billion their way, like loose change in the couch of the AIG bailout, what we're talking about here, right? I was watching a press conference with Todd Stern, the chief U.S. negotiator, and he was confronted with the fact that the 2% degrees that they were advocating means 3 degrees in Africa, which essentially means turning the continent into a furnace, will lead to the deaths of millions. And, he essentially shrugged, right? So, and then in another press conference, he was asked whether he accepted the idea of climate debt.
Yeah.
And he said he rejected it categorically because the U.S. was not aware of the effects of its greenhouse gas emissions. So maybe you can say that for the first 150 years, but you can't say it for the last 50 years.
Wow.
And you certainly can't say it since the Kyoto Protocol has been signed or since the Climate Convention, which the U.S. signed in 1992, clearly stated that greenhouse gases were creating it. But then even now, you see negotiators confronted with the facts. This decision, this course that you're choosing, will lead to the deaths of millions. No one's arguing with the figures.
I mean, it's already 300,000 every year dying.
I find this whole thing surreal. I mean, you go to sessions about how poor countries should adapt to climate change. Learn from the people of Bangladesh and how they're building boats or something like that. Yeah. We're not talking about how the U.S. or Britain or Canada should adapt to climate change by radically changing our ways of life.
I think there's going to be an environmental criminal court in the future, don't you?
I hope so. The information has been there, the treaties have been signed, and we've gone on doing the very thing that we know is leading to
death.
to death.
Yeah.
And so the idea that we're just stupid, I think, is far too charitable.
So do I.
I think it's
but we
pretty
were trying to make a mainstream movie.
pretty malevolent, actually.
I agree.
Yeah.
Tell me about the best deal that's on the table.
At this point, there isn't a good deal on the table that the U.S. or the EU would come close to accepting. So this whole idea of hoping and fingers crossed for a good deal, it's pretty childish. And they're not going to do it unless they face tremendous pressure. They're facing so much pressure from the corporate lobbyists.